All right. It is 6 o'clock on the nose here, so I'm gonna call to order our finance committee meeting today. We'll do a quick roll call. Trustee or committee member Dominic Baranyi here.
Jason Mellon here.
Christine Gator here.
Pat Johnson, secretary.
John Gator, trustee liaison.
Sarah Knack here.
Jesse Andreen here. Janice Foster here.
Patty Garcia here.
Right on. Okay,
Ethan.
cool.
Ethan's here.
too.
Yeah.
And
Also gonna be here.
trustee
And-
Teets.
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
Let's start with reviewing the minutes from the June 26th, 2023 meeting.
I have one I have to make. I spelled Nick's name with a K.
Oops.
You can blame autocorrect for that one.
I got nothing. Looks good. I'll make a motion to accept the June 26, 2023 Finance Committee meeting minutes.
I will second that motion. Anyone opposed? No, cool. Accepted the minutes from last month's meeting. Next, we will go into a cash handling policy update from me. And we actually will not go into a cash handling policy update from me because I am not comfortable with where the draft is at this point. Did not want to present it. And I will also say, not that it's super relevant, but I think I may have gotten a concussion at hockey over the weekend. So I did not actually work today. And I did not have any appetite for additional work. But, so we will table the cash handling policy, and my sincerest apologies for not getting that finished. Before someone cheap shotted me at hockey. Sorry about that.
Wow.
Yeah, I won't say I
only
deserved it. I have my moments on this. Not that he should hit me from behind. It is what it is.
Okay.
So if we skip that, and like I said, sorry, everyone.
So that'll give us some time to have it reviewed before the next meeting, hopefully, instead of at the meeting.
Yeah, ideally, that was the other thing too. It's like, I feel better today. Truthfully, I probably could have grit my teeth and finished it 4:30 or so today, but it's not really fair to have stuff presented right before a
Right.
meeting. No one really likes sitting here silently while we all read it understanding quickly, and I don't really think it's something that we should kind of review so quickly like that. So I think it would be more fair to have that kind of on the similar cadence to when we get the packet. Like, if you don't have something ready by Friday at 4 o'clock or whatever, when you have the packet, it's not ready for the meeting, as far as I'm concerned. After that, we will go to a purchasing policy update, verbal update from Pat.
So the purchasing policy, I got the Word version. I put in my changes or suggested changes, recommendations, edits, basically. And still have a few things to go through. So that'll come out with the next packet as well. And I would like to say that the packet we've requested to have at least by Thursday, so we have an extra day.
Thursday.
Yeah. That'll give us maybe more time to review all the things that we have to review.
All right, moving quickly here. Anything else on purchasing policy or any input, feedback from anyone? I'll take some on cash handling if anyone has any either. Cool. Audit update?
Well, I can say Pat and I did meet and talk about the purchasing policy. She kind of identified some of those issues, like we said we had a purchasing coordinator, which is not obviously a position we have at the town of Wellington, and there was some information that it didn't coincide. They didn't connect whatsoever. So it was interesting to go through it with her, looking at it through that purchasing lens of, this is what you said here, but then it says here on page 4. So going through those red lines and stuff was really helpful for me. And she said, should I just fix it up? I'm like, please just fix it up and make it what it's supposed to be. So it's something we can actually use. So her time was really beneficial. So thank you, Pat, for your time.
And I'm not
going
sure
through
that we're going to share my first edit with everybody
Yeah.
because it's pretty well marked up.
Yeah.
Patty wanted to look at it again and then we'll share it with everybody.
Yeah, just so I'm aware of what's going on, but
Yeah.
she's doing a great job. So thank you very much for that. Audit update. So the auditors have re-engaged in a big way. They've been reaching out to us. I think we have provided them all of the requests for 2021. They've requested documents for 2022, which is, we feel is a good sign. Kelly did hear from them today, that just talking about the process and what was going on. We don't have a date for the 2021 audit to be presented yet. She let them know today when she talked to them that we're going to need a date for that for calendaring purposes. With assuming that the contract with Baker Tilly gets approved tomorrow night, Don Rhodes, who will be assigned to us to work, will be reaching out to the auditors for more information, see where we're at. None of us on town staff are auditors. I mean, I know Dominic has questions and we've kind of forwarded those questions and they don't answer us right away. So maybe you have more of an in with them and using the right lingo, but Don Rhodes definitely understands what needs to be asked and can communicate that to them. So if his contract gets approved, he said that's one of the first things he'll work on is finishing up that audit. He would also be working on that management's discussion and analysis for the audits when the time comes. He said he will be preparing that. So I did receive a request from Dominic for the management letter comments for the prior year's audits. We have been through all our files. We've been through Judy files. We've been through charity files. So I have reached out to Larry Watkins from BDO asking for those documents because I don't remember seeing it, but I was only here for one audit with them. And that was the 2020 audit. And I remember looking because I was wondering what our deficiencies were because there was always something. And I don't remember seeing anything in the documentation that was provided. So I will let you all know once I hear back from Mr. Watkins. He wasn't in the office today, but he's usually pretty good about responding within 24 to 48 hours.
So the way this works, finish all your audit testing, auditors prepare financial statements. They provide, and this does not include in the report, it's a list of
Right.
findings essentially, right? You say this, and this. It's very, very granular. Then someone from the management team signs, it's called a representation letter. They say, hey, all the numbers in the statements are fair and accurate. We acknowledge the truthfulness of all the comments and we acknowledge, the findings of the report. Someone signs off on it. And then there's the actual report itself. So yeah, the management letter comments and specifically from when Ms. Campfield mentioned on the May 16th work session that she believed at least that there were prior year comments not being followed. That's what we were trying to follow up on specifically. Was
Okay.
That section actually that's not in the report.
Okay.
And it's usually pretty granular. Like it'll say like your cash policy doesn't quite work, or
Right.
your internal controls documentation isn't what it's supposed to be, or we notice instances where purchasing card authorization limit was X and someone bought for Y. Like it's usually very, very specific. And then like the summation of all of those audit points, depending on how I'm trying to say serious they are, would lead to, okay, if they were like super serious and there was no evidence that management fixed anything, then it would say, okay, you have either a significant deficiency or a material weakness. Obviously, like in the report, we did not have either of those.
No.
So we asserted that either controls deficiencies were acknowledged, addressed, and corrected, or that there wasn't any comments. So like that's just what we were eager to like follow up on and try to figure out what she was kind of referring to there.
Absolutely. We're trying to track it down. Like I said, I've been through emails. Ethan went through things. Janice went through. She has access to all of Charity's files. We're just not finding anything. So like
It
I
wouldn't
said,
be Charity because she wasn't here in 2020.
and I've got Judy, well, she has Judy files as well. So we'll follow up, but like I said, I want to let you know, I did reach out to Mr. Watkins to see what I can find.
Who's driving like testing? Like you provide them PBC docs and then usually the way this works is if you're testing AP, for example, like they're gonna look at your list of bills and bills payments from certain periods and they're gonna say, okay, we're gonna test like these 10 bills, like show us the bill, proof of payment, three-way match, ties out to the GL. So those are the other thing I was trying to figure out from last meeting and from our email communications was like, who right now is leading that?
As far as giving them their remittance and everything they're asking for.
Testing.
Me.
Okay.
Yeah, myself and Kelly, and will be Stephanie when she returns, but Kelly and I are doing everything.
Okay. Does it seem like any testing has happened so far?
Not with AP or AR or anything like that. They have provided a list of 54 requirements, which I'm sure you're,
Request for
Familiar with.
2022.
yeah, this is for 2022. So it's kind of like the punch list.
Yeah.
And Kelly and I are going through it as quick as possible.
I had a question. This management letter is new to me. I didn't know such a thing existed. Are those typically presented to elected officials so that they're aware of them?
They're usually presented, so I'm speaking a little bit more from a corporate lens, I
Sure.
guess, but they are typically presented to, I mean, school districts, to the school board, a municipality, depending on if it's like a trustee structure, but it could just be, depending on the size of the municipality, like an administrative level.
Okay,
But yeah, so management letter comments are always discussed with, I mean, particularly who's signing the representation
Okay.
letter, so the company CFO, at a township, it's the town administrator, right? Like whoever's asserting that like, okay, all the information that we provided is complete and accurate. If we had, like, we'll use if we had a control deficiency, like usually the auditors will say, hey, you need to show us that you've either like corrected this or like made steps in the
Okay.
next year to address this, and you really tick them off, like, okay, we're doing this, this, and this now, like, we can feel comfortable
okay,
saying, like, some of these stuff have been addressed. A management letter, if there was anything more serious, that would be the place to discuss some of that too. But yeah, it's not technically part of like the final audit report.
got it. Okay,
That's something that'll stay confidential between the auditors and top management.
okay,
That
got it.
was like a rep letter as well.
Okay, thank you. I just did not know such a thing existed.
Oh, I know we didn't get, I searched emails from Randy Watkins since I started, and I have nothing. All I have is a couple emails between him and Judy talking about the MD&A, but that was it, so,
Yeah, MD&A is like,
yeah,
it's like,
it's from us.
commentary.
Essentially,
It's instead of just putting numbers and tables in financial statements, it's describing what
Yeah,
happened.
just telling the story.
Yeah, it's regurgitating your financial statements in a narrative form, and it's often provided with unaudited information too. Like, for example, commentary around in a business, like changes in revenue year over year, or like different segmented revenue trends. Like an MD&A might include graphics or things like that that aren't necessarily like audited financial statements, so to speak. Whereas you're talking about the financial statement themselves, those like 40 pages of documents, those are what the auditors are saying. Like, yes, we assert that we tested this. There's no significant deficiencies, material weaknesses. These statements are free from misstatement, et cetera, et cetera. They're not asserting over. MD&A is more commentary for interested parties to the financial statements. They're often like a little more digestible, especially more digestible than like notes to the financial statements, which are often pretty technically accounting based. Like they're often based on specific rules of government auditing or generally accepted accounting principles, right? Like there are required notes and disclosures that you have to make on financial statements. That MD&A is just supposed to be a little more narrative based.
Yeah, we'll keep looking. We did
I
not,
will keep looking now that I have a better description of what it is. It's kinda like-
Someone would have signed off on the, like, it's called the management representation letter. Someone would have signed off on the rep letter and management comments. Usually those two things would be signed and addressed by the same person. Maybe not exactly at the same time, but it's
Okay.
usually at the exact same time,
Okay.
right? Like you finish all your testing, you prepare financial statements, you present them to the CFO, administrator, whoever, right? And then to go with that, before the report can be issued and presented, someone's gonna sign the representation letter and someone's going to acknowledge the management letter comments. Like, this should all have, someone signed them, and it should have happened like, if I guess, probably like a week or two before the report was issued,
Okay.
if you wanna like triangulate on the date there.
okay, that's good to know.
Yeah,
Well, wait.
only for 2020.
No,
That's the last one we've done, so, yeah, so
So
it's been
219 doesn't
2020.
really matter.
I mean,
if we have them, I'd like to see them if we have them. I mean,
yeah,
I think it's good for our records, just
I
since we
think I
can't
can-
find them.
Look a little harder now
Okay.
that I,
Okay, now you know what you're
like I
looking for,
said, a
maybe.
few weeks before the date of the report, and yeah, I had a guess, I'd say a previous administrator, but could have been a finance leader too. I guess theoretically, it could have been like a mayor,
Who knows?
some sort of like, one of those few people.
Have you checked Tyler's emails? Because it would have, and Tyler would have been the
I don't
finance
know.
director at the
I don't
time.
know that, and now I'm wondering about if things got sent to Troy.
Could have been a Troy or Tyler, because I was looking through my audit emails and I had some questions about audit that I talked to, and I'll forward it to you from
Okay.
Tyler, but he gave me someone's email address, Aaron. I don't know if that was the
And
person.
that is at BDO? Is that a?
No, at ACM LLP, was
I
that,
don't know who that is.
assuming it was
BDO
one of
will
our
definitely
auditors.
have it. I mean, the path of least resistance here might just be reaching
Yeah.
out to like literally
Yeah, you
anyone at
already-
BDO.
Yeah, I did. I
Oh,
reached
okay.
out to BDO and
Okay.
he's been really good. He's been super responsive about
Okay,
getting our
Cool.
2020 items that the auditors were looking for. So,
Will that be shared with all of us?
yep, as soon as it comes out, I will share it out. Absolutely.
That should be something that's done every year, right? With
We
us
should
and the
be-
board?
The way Dominic is talking, we should have that every year. with
Yeah,
every
I mean,
report.
it depends exactly on the municipality, but I would think, if I had to guess here, I would say what would normally happen, it would be trustees and town administrator would all review
Yeah.
this together. Or administrator and mayor,
Mhm.
maybe with like a presentation to the trustees after. I mean, there's not like a rule,
Yeah.
like who needs to do it exactly, like it can be a CFO, it could be like a CEO, it could be like it. There's some
Yeah.
fluidity there, but that's typically how it would go. You discuss the management letter comments, you address them if they're like a certain degree of serious. If they're like pretty small stuff, then it's usually not like the end of the world. And then the report is what, you know, it's on the website, signed off on. That's like the formal presentation from the auditors.
We said it's supposed to be secret, not supposed to be public.
It's not public, no. It's not public at like a public company.
But since we're advising, we should see it as well.
We've asked, it's kind of come up. I mean, I don't.
And
think
I'm
we
sorry,
can
I'm thinking
force
about future,
anyone
too.
to share
So,
it,
yeah,
but,
so
like,
if-
yeah.
So I will, once I get it, I'll reach out to Dominic, okay? And then we'll kind of decide how to move forward from there. And then maybe I print it off and give it to you all at a meeting or something like that, so there's not an email trail or something like that, because I don't want, there's nothing to hide.
I would agree.
So there's nothing to hide. We want to improve our processes, and if there's things that the auditors determine that we needed to work on, then let's work on it, let's fix it, because that's the purpose of that particular
Yeah,
letter.
it's one of those, I mean, we don't know what's in it.
Mhm.
There could be all sort of variety of like, a good example of this would be, this is not the case here, but a very large settlement payment at like a corporation or something, like some details of the handling of, like, let's say there was a large settlement related to a lawsuit at a corporation, and in their accounting system, they didn't make steps to like hide the person's identity, right? Like a comment like that could be in a management letter, and to your point, like, that's not really something that you'd want. No one has any like legal right to it except the trustees really, and like, that's who would need to be shared with it, but like, to the point of like, what is this finance committee doing, like, what is our job here, like, yeah, obviously we can redact if there was something absolutely out of the water, but like, there could be all sorts of stuff in a management letter that we wouldn't necessarily, none of companies would want necessarily to just be out to the public. And that's not an obfuscation thing, that's just like, I mean, there could be sensitive or like really specific information in a report like that.
So I'll keep you updated as when I find it. So at least you know that it's been located, and then I'll work with Dominic. How does that sound? I think somebody's at the door. I just saw somebody walk out. I'm not sure. Maybe it's, I thought I saw somebody. Okay.
And Patty, you said share with Dominic, but is it because he's got that experience, that
He
background?
knows what we're looking for. I want to make sure that the information we're getting makes sense.
It'll be fairly obvious if
Yeah.
there was something in there that's like, whoa,
Well,
we can't let like everyone see, like,
Right.
I am not gonna keep anything, I'm not gonna like filter, like, oh, I only wanna tell the rest of the finance committee about point 1, 2, and 7 here, like, it's just gonna be one of these, let me take a look at it first, and just like, I think it'll be pretty obvious.
I think so
It would be
too,
like-
and what I'm used to, I mean, I've seen these letters in other municipalities I've worked for, and we didn't get one with this, and I thought, well, maybe it's because we're statutory or something, because I've never worked in a statutory, interesting, Nathan, if you want to pull the chair down there, you can. Say a little more space. I don't know, we had extra people in here the other day.
It's possible that there was like absolutely nothing to report on. I'll just say from my experience as an auditor, like, if we didn't find anything for the management letter, like, we probably didn't do a very good job on it.
Well,
Like, that means we weren't looking
Yeah.
hard enough, whether it was like through controls walkthroughs or like, there's almost always
Yep.
something.
Yep.
Like, even if it's just like, payroll reconciliation for this month, like, didn't quite,
There's generally
you gotta
something.
find something if you're doing your job,
Yeah,
like, it'd be
There's
very
generally
hard
something.
to
Agreed.
have no comments.
Agreed.
Anyways, that's not like, it's just, that's not what it is when you're working, like, you gotta find something. They're paying you money, like, you should probably find something, and no one's perfect, right?
Well, if
Like,
you look hard enough, you will find it. That's just the way it is.
yeah.
And my point for asking about who you're sharing it with was more of the fact that Dominic's interim or standing in for Nick.
Yeah.
Wondering whether it was because of that or whether it was because of his
Probably a
experience.
little bit of both.
Okay.
It makes sense. It does make sense. Is everybody else comfortable with that?
I'm not gonna hide anything, but I'll just be like, if there's something in there that I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, we can't share this,
maybe
let's redact.
Trustees first,
Yeah.
then like,
That's fair.
but the likelihood of that is quite small. so.
Okay, that sounds fair. Thank you.
Anything else on the audit? All right, I think next up is reviewing the Baker Tilly. Is it fair to call it an engagement letter?
Yes, that's what it's called. It's an engagement letter. It's not
Okay,
a
I wasn't
formal
100%
contract,
sure.
but we.
Alright.
So, everything's in the packet. The memo talks about the process we went through, the RFQ process, how many we received, the review committee came down to the top two, and the review committee recommended engaging with Baker Tilly for these services. Understanding that it's expensive, we know that. But at the same time, I feel it is the best road to take at this point in time. We'll reassess the service needs in 6 months. So right now it's, I wrote this down. For 21 weeks, about $106,000 for those services. These are unbudgeted funds. So each department, many of the departments in town designated funds for the service. They took from professional fees, professional development, salary savings from the finance department, of course, was one of the big ones. So happy to answer any questions. Mr. Rhodes will be at the meeting tomorrow night, and then we'll be ready to start work on August 6th. We have Cassell coming in the next week to do some on-site training, so he will be participating in that as well. So he is well versed in, or at least has a knowledge of Cassell. I can't say well versed, but will at least understand the system and be able to work within it and be able to look at the same things that Janice is and things like that.
Does anyone have an idea of how long we are hoping to have a company like that?
You know, me personally, I'm hoping for at least a year, because I think it's gonna take us that long to actually get us in a good place. But I'm hoping that the number of hours will be reduced after that first 6 months. I think the first 6 months will be, onboarding, learning our processes, what are we doing? One of the things he said he wanted to do, one of his priorities was to make sure that we were all comfortable with it, with all the GL entries. He knows that I've been very honest with him and told him that's an issue that we're having right now, and wanting to make sure that that's correct and it correlates with our current budget. So he knows that's one of the things he wants to work on along with the audit. So like I said, I think initially it's going to be a lot, and then I'm hoping after the first 6 months, we can readdress the time being used, and it will be less, is my hope.
So, approximately how much were we paying to have a finance director? Like how much, let me pull that. It was, do you know?
Approximately, it was 116. That was Charity's salary, not including benefits. I don't think with Dawn, he would be eligible for benefits. So,
No,
116, I think was her leaving base salary.
No, it's more
Well,
expensive. This
it's
is
way
only
more.
6 months.
Yes, way more.
This is 6
Oh,
months.
oh.
He's
Yeah.
only 21 weeks.
Yeah.
25 hours a week.
Mhm.
Part-time.
At a reduced rate.
Yep,
It's about 300K annual, yeah.
yep.
Do
So
they have anything, like have they told us anything that they will for sure correct or for sure get done?
no, all I know is from from the people we talk to and their experience that this is, this is what they're skilled at, is being able to turn things around, be able to make the work within the GLs, make sure everything is working right, look at the audit, make sure it makes sense. Start looking at our revenue projections, create the budget and present it. You know, all those different pieces is what they're good at. Right now, we have the foundational piece. So we have somebody who Janice is working hard on, you know, AP, payroll, all those types of pieces. So now we need somebody to do that upper level oversight.
One thing I did want to note, you did email the packet to the finance committee, but on the website, it's only showing the agenda when you click the packet. So if we can just make sure to get the packet
Yes.
uploaded so that the public isn't watching the video like, wait, what are you talking about?
I have loaded packets for 18 years, and for some reason, this finance committee packet just threw me fit, so I apologize. I will do that as soon as we're done.
So this 106 is based on the minimum,
Mhm.
25 hours, but you said you're hoping later they will go down to the minimum. So we need to start at the 35 hours to begin with, not the 25. So we need to find money in the budget for the additional 10 hours a week, plus an additional probably coming in travel.
I mean, we're jumping ahead to the budget a little bit. I would say conservatively, you should probably budget for close to a full year, 25 hours a week minimum. Keep in mind, though, that if you read this letter, so you get Don, you get Don 25 hours a week plus travel and expenses at a discounted rate. So that's what you get. You get one person, you get his 25 hours a week. So we're talking budget, we're talking certain rates, we're talking policy reviews, we're talking GL code reviews, so you get him. But if you need anything extra, you get billed at the full rate based by level. So, you get, I'll just say this here, right? Like I have experience, on both sides of the table here. Like the way this is working is you get an expert at a pretty good price for 25 hours. That's what they can budget you for. That's how they can carve out time, like staffing wise. What ends up happening is, especially in municipalities who come in with issues, like you don't know exactly what you need until he really starts working. So like, for example, so Don's gonna start, it all gets approved by what? August-ish, September, maybe after Labor Day, today's the 17th.
Yes.
So call it mid-August, late August. 2 weeks just getting acclimated, right? Like who's who, get me into systems. Let me look at some very, very basic reports. Let me look at budget. Budget calendar's coming up real quick. We have 2 outstanding audits. We have GL cleanups and stuff to do. That's 23. Like, I'm just gonna tell you right now, like as far as like process or like root causes as to why things are going wrong, Don has no time to do that in 2023. This is not how this works. And I don't mean to be pessimistic. I'm just like, been in like a consultant role, my private industry role now, like I work with consultants constantly. We're never under budget, okay? Like, literally never. And it's no one's fault. It's not like they're slow rolling you. The way this works is when you just start peeling back an onion, right? And like, if we have ambitious goals of like really, really revitalizing process and peeling back onion layers to the root cause of like what is actually going wrong. To say nothing at all about, okay, he's here 2 days a week, like the follow through and the execution on implementation, like he might not really be the best person to do that. And definitely not in his first like 3 months, like maybe a year into the job when everyone knows Don and everyone's chummy with Don, like maybe they'll like, I don't wanna say listen, but like he's still a consultant at first. Like there is an on-ramping period to any consultant relationship. And like this 25 hours a week for the rest of the year, it's gonna get you through the budget. If you want his help on the audit at all, I'm assuming maybe,
Probably.
that's the hours.
Okay.
Like, that's all of them. It's just like, these things don't happen quick. Like, you don't just walk in somewhere as a consultant for the first time and like, you get everything that's going on. You can be handed a trove of documents, right? Like, you can be given all this stuff, even if your processes are great, it's gonna take a while. I love the idea of hiring someone. I just want to be super, super realistic with the budget, because like, this year, 106,000, okay, you're not gonna fix anything. You're gonna get the audit done, you're gonna get through the budget, and like, you might catch up on, at least you'll feel maybe like, okay, some of my 23 financials might be in a decent place. The hours will be gone after that, like they just are, and I don't want any underselling of like, we're need less hours later. In my experience, and it's nothing personal, I thoroughly disagree with that. And like, if you are really expecting, if anyone's expecting a stranger who is not the finance director, who's not getting benefits, who doesn't live here, to come in and like really fix these processes, a year minimum, year and a half more likely, and call it a full 300K next year and 106 this year. It's not to say that it's not the right answer. That's not my point at all. I do think it's the right answer. I just want all of us to be really honest about like budget. And like, these guys are sharp, they're good.
Yep.
And guess what? If you have problems, they got people to fix your problems and they cost money. That's just how this works. Like, in my company, I had a pretty tight deadline, literally this week, right? And we have a very good relationship with an external consultant. They're a combination of like CPA and IT people. They do super great work helping us with our financial systems and just kind of brute forcing work that we don't have staffing to get done. Great. They always have more people to help, always. And guess what? We're always over budget. And it's not a bad thing, because like, stuff needs to get done, right? And like I said, I'm not saying it's not the right answer, but don't assume that this is gonna get fixed for like the same price, even all in with benefits, as a finance director. Cause like, I would, double, like definitely double.
So why don't we do a little bit of negotiation up front and try to get them to outline a little bit more of what they're going to do for us, instead of just regurgitating what you sent out in the request for information.
Well, we emailed today. He wants to talk about a work plan after, probably tomorrow. But definitely set up a work plan. And I think, and we'll report out. I will definitely report out to y'all how things are going, and he'll be here at the meetings to report out and see, let you know the status. We haven't, we're not sure. I mean, you're right. I mean, it could be a lot. I'd love to prove you wrong. I'd love to say, no, Dominic was wrong. But
We couldn't tell them, we couldn't give them an exact list of stuff to fix right now. So this is like the whole crux of like, when you're dealing with consultants, right? Like, we don't have an exhaustive list of what's wrong. Like, it is, from their point of view, like I said, they're not lowballing, not literally, like,
Right.
they can only budget for what they know, right? Like, in my company very recently, like, we tried to turn around a statement of work in like a week, because we absolutely had a tight deadline for something. We missed something. We just forgot it, right? Is that anyone's fault? No, it's like they budgeted for what they knew. None of us really know the full scope of work for what they need to do. And truthfully, like, I don't think we know exactly what we want them to do. consultants are kind of like computers, right? Like, they're only gonna do exactly what you tell them to do. Like, they're not just gonna come in, like, you gotta come up like, okay, you made a point, work plan, right? Prioritization. Okay, this is the first time, it's like, okay, what are we hitting first? Well, got these 2 audits that like, I don't
Yep.
get these done, like, really like can barely function as a town in some ways, so like,
We can't do
that
budget.
needs attention. Oh, yeah, we also have a budget that like needs attention from the trustees, like literally very soon. Like, those are the priorities and like, that's the year, right? Like, and this is, it's like I said, it's no one's fault. It's just like, we don't know, we don't have a list. If somehow you could look into a crystal ball and be like, okay, I want this finance department to be perfect in 18 months. Tell me everything that needs to get done between then and now, and you sent them that to a budget, I guarantee you it would be like 300K.
Yeah.
350. Like, it's just, it's not, we don't know that, and it's just gonna keep layering more and more.
Can we take the busy work out, like the accounts payable?
Mhm.
Data entry should not
So,
be done
oh,
by
he's-
someone that.
They are
that's
gonna do
it.
data
You won't do
entry.
it, yeah.
Okay,
No,
This is-
he's not- that's where we've got staff to do that, so.
okay.
So, I'm sorry.
It's okay, go ahead.
I would agree, like, when it says the majority of the funds are coming from salary savings and projects, coming under budget. I think that's good in theory, but do we foresee it coming out of other things this year?
No,
Or-
we actually, there's a little bit, I have about another 13,000 that I have not, at least 13,000 I have not tapped into from, the planning department. We're trying to save some of the professional fees because we know, there will be costs associated to the asphalt plant for legal fees that we did not budget for, so trying to save some of that money for that purpose, right now. But there are, some other funds I can tap into if we needed to. I mean, it's not the best case scenario. It comes from people's needs and not their wants, but it's, we all know, my team understands that this is really important and we need to have somebody here, an outside look, an outside consultant, as Dominic has stated, just to take the look at it. I don't want somebody who is an employee. I need somebody from the outside to take a look at it and tell me what we need to do differently. If we're doing things wrong, what are they? Let's fix it.
So did we decide, sorry, Tom, did we decide to go with this company over another finance director because of frustration, like with the recent finance director situation, or
We can't hire anyone. No one wants to come work for us.
that's really it?
That is
We're 2
true.
years behind on audit, like, no one worked their.
And right now, finance directors are very hard to find, very, very hard to find. Municipalities have this position open for sometimes a year. They had filled one, we got Vic from Erie. She had raised up somebody from within the troops at Erie to take over the finance director position, and that lasted a little over a year, and then they left. So now Vic is back in Erie, helping out. So finance is a tough role right now. The political climate makes it very difficult. There's a lot of oversight, and trying to make sure everything is correct all the time is difficult. So we're seeing a lot of turnover.
Have we looked at like other municipalities that have had companies like this come in, and like, is there a greater success rate in those towns?
Well, the one I rely upon is Brighton. City of Brighton had some similar issues. And Don is who worked with Brighton, and their team recommended him wholeheartedly to come in and take care of business, essentially. And Don is the one who gave me the 25 hours after his experience with Brighton. So whether it's off, it could be more. I was taking his recommendation as far as what he thought it was, but definitely we can readjust, and I would notify you all if that was the case, along with the board of trustees, if we needed to increase that at all, or felt like we were going to be going over those hourly rates on a regular basis.
I'm just curious why Brighton.
Brighton, because that was somebody that Baker Tilly used, and it was a community I knew. So I had contacts over there. I could ask them questions, somebody I could trust. So,
Yeah, and to be clear, like 25 hours is a fixed fee here, right? Like, that's the 5K. They do say 25 to 35. They're leaving themselves some wiggle room. And like, what am I trying to say here? Like, you almost need to get acclimated in one of these situations like this first. Like, you're not gonna jump in and start doing 40 hours a week I mean, he's at a fixed fee here, but like at $300 an hour, it's just like, no one's gonna, a small municipality, like we all know, like just the budget constraints and stuff, like no one's ever gonna feel like you're getting value for that, right? So like you kind of gotta start small and then really just, I'm not trying to disparage them in any way, just the business here is like, you're gonna start small, you're gonna start with some specific things. Ideally, you're getting along well, you're a culture fit, like you start finding other things and like this starts to cascade into, and like I said, I'm not even saying it's a bad thing that like they fix more stuff and you pay them more money, but like that's part of the gig, right? Like you're a consultant, like you're trying to find more stuff for you to do and fix stuff for them. And like they're asking you to fix more stuff, you fix more stuff. They ask for more buys, you give them more buys. Like that's just the nature of accounting consultant. I would other say more unsolicited advice. One staff here needs to be like the designated point of contact for Don.
And hold them
Like,
accountable to what they said they'll do.
project management, it's like checking in. It's not like you're trying to be his boss necessarily, but you will say, because here's how this is gonna go, right? Like you bring Don in here for the first time. He gets the tour, he gets to meet everyone and start talking about things that are wrong. Okay, maybe we're focusing on the audit and budget stuff first, but then he hears, oh, I don't know, like purchasing something or other needs like a second set of attention. Or, oh, GL codes coming from this one department, like our company, stuff will come up, right? Like things, this is, you're working, things come up, something's right in front of you, you present it to him. And like his list starts getting longer and longer. And maybe one day when something like this comes up, he's like, oh, that sounded really important at the time. Like, let me look into this right now. And then suddenly maybe he's not doing what's actually the top priority, right? And it's no one's fault. It's not nefarious. It's not like, but this it's just like a moving target. And it's like when you're coming in here and the objective for the consultant is to like fix the department, make it shiny. It's like, hey, well, there's gonna be like literally hundreds of things on the punch list to do. And for one guy who's here twice a week, who's still getting to know everyone, still getting like a feel of the culture, like he might think like something is important because it sounded important last week, Tuesday, but it really is actually starting to divert from like our project plan a little bit. And then when he checks in with the trustees like a month and a half later, they're like, why haven't the 2021 audit got done? And it's like, oh, I thought this was a priority. So I would highly recommend that like, it's not someone's full-time job, but someone has to be point on like checking in with him, what's on his punch list, like what are we working on? Are the prior, like, and that person interfaces with you, Patty, too, right? Like, is what Don is working on the priorities of this management team and the trustees, yes or no? Did we have something unexpected that come up that he needed to attend to for whatever reason? Okay, fine, like that stuff happens. But like, just very, very good recommendation is like, if he has multiple people telling him about things to do, and he starts doing a bunch more stuff.
Sure,
and then,
we don't
like,
need that.
Highly, highly recommend, like, this is something I do at work all the time, particularly, so my company and our company merged together, right? So like we've spent the last 6 months combining every system, combining accounting teams, all this good stuff. Like my role turned into from like a technical accounting role to almost like a project manager by the end of it, just because like there were so many people with so many like competing interests. And like, my company's a little bigger than this municipality, but like that stuff will happen. Like he'll be sitting in a room and he'll hear about one problem and it might not align with like what so I would just highly recommend that someone is like the dedicated point of contact. Probably shouldn't be you, Patty, ideally. If it had to be, at least to start, I would totally understand.
Yeah, I think
because
that's the plan, just like the first week or two,
Yeah,
and
sure.
then we'll probably shift them off to Janice.
Can we have a not to exceed? Because it doesn't say that this is what we're gonna pay.
Yeah.
It says, here's my hourly rate, but it could be 35 hours, it could be more.
There are a few things that you should probably negotiate in there.
Okay,
Such as,
Well, they're gonna, if they want to change their project manager, they can do that without any approval from us. How are they gonna communicate changes in personnel or hours to the town? When do they switch to a different rate versus the 175? I mean,
so you get 25 fixed at
Right.
175.
then what's that go to for Dawn?
Oh, so if Don works 26 hours, he'll work,
Is he-
tack 175.
Is he 180 Or is he
Which one is
His real rate
225?
is higher, but he
Yeah.
is a discounted rate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Discount, see, I like that.
We're just wondering which one he is. Is he manager,
Yeah.
director,
one
special
is he?
advisor, senior
So
consultant?
his rate is right below the interim services. The actual consultant hours will be at the rate of 175.
But that's
That's his
his, isn't
discounted.
that his
That's his-
25?
So, and this would be a good clarification, but I believe if Don is working on stuff, we get billed 175 an hour.
Always.
And then
That, and we can confirm that even if he's working 45 hours, we do need to make sure that's the case, but that's my understanding. All the other rates for special advisor, director, managing, and this was one of the things that was brought up through the process was that we do have that depth of bench. So if there's some other issue that comes up, we can go and ask to bring someone else in. And we were explained in the interviews that that would go through a approval process with the town first. So it wouldn't be that Don just pulls somebody in and bills us for, you know, the $295 an hour without running that by Patti.
Oh, yeah.
So that was
By
explained.
Patti, though, not like another engagement letter to sign.
No,
No, it wouldn't be another engagement letter, just by staff to say, hey, we want to look into this and it's going to require bringing this person in. And again, anything under $30,000, Patti has approval to do as long as it's within the budget. So that's why I say to Patti, she would be, depending on where in the chain it would, but most likely Patti would be the one signing off on that. So. But that was a question that was brought up in the interview process, was what leads to these other hourly rates being engaged? Because that was the same thing that we brought up was, okay, the rate is the same here, but then what happens if these other people come in and the numbers do go up on that?
Yeah, couple points there, totally agree. When this comes up again in 24, I presume, like, let's just say he gets started and it's like, oh, wow, not nearly enough hours. Potentially budgeting for a second consultant will definitely be an option. And it's not to say like, you might be able to get another fixed fee for like a second guy, right? That's point number one. The other thing too is like, sorry, I just lost my train of thought a little bit. They're not gonna try to like surprise bill us for anything, right? Like, it is going to be based on perceived need. And like, as this evolves and like, as you start to understand like exactly what we need a little bit more, like, they're gonna recommend like A, B, and C options. The exact hourly rate of these people could also change in 2024. Full disclosure, like, there's no guarantee anywhere in here. And you could ask for it, but I highly doubt they're gonna give it to you because it's just like a mid-year, I give you 25 hours for one person engagement. And then next year, we're gonna do like kind of a full engagement letter. Price might go up a little bit. No guarantee that you'll get like
You can
a
ask.
decent deal.
I mean, we ask all
we
the
will
time.
definitely ask. We asked for the discount, so we got a little bit of discount.
Ask them to hold their price
I'm just
for a
like-
year.
Yeah, there's give and take there, right? Like, you're doing a longer engagement, they will have some more knowledge, they'll have like they can
Right.
budget it
Right,
better,
yep.
right?
Sure.
So there's just some give and take, but like, they might bump up all their staff rates, $20. It's just, it's how accounting firms work, right? Like, we sent a letter out to all our clients, like, hey, just so you all know, like, partner
Rates
rates
and
this,
fees.
director rates this, like, it's just part of the business. So something else.
Part of business, but you don't have to accept it all, because you can limit them. That's not 20, but, yeah, I mean,
Fixed fee engagement, I mean, yeah, we would all love fixed fee engagements.
but we're talking additional hours or next year. We contract all the time for a year at a time. Started the contract, those rates are firm for a year.
Well,
The
yeah,
next year, they're capped at whatever CPI is, whatever the market's going at. We're doing some at 3% right now, which is not great, but.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying they're gonna bump up 20%, nor am I gonna say that they're changing during the engagement letter. I'm just saying like they probably will change in 2024. And I will say too, like, from the accounting firm's point of view, like, how can we budget this? Like, how confident can we be that we can budget that, like, we aren't gonna go over hours either? Because we do a fixed fee engagement and you're over in hours, like the firm's eating it, right? And like, that's bad. No partner wants to deal with that. So in like a more steady state, okay, I know in a different contract, I'm like definitely doing X, Y, and Z. The chance of my scope creep like isn't that high. Yeah, you might be able to negotiate like a better fixed fee rate and like a more steady state where like the partners of the firm aren't really thinking they're gonna take on the risk that they do this fixed fee, that they're gonna overrun in hours and just lose money.
So I will, saying all that, I will keep you all posted. We'll provide updates as far as where we're at with the hours and things like that and projects, things that are being worked on, so you have an idea. We'll provide that to the trustees as well, so there's accountability in that process. And if we need to, if we start getting into November and it looks like we've gone through our $106,000, I'll keep you guys updated and let you know where we'll be finding the rest of those funds to get through the rest of the year.
Don't go over budget in the first 2 months.
No,
Don't let them work more than,
no,
Yeah.
not the plan.
keep them at
No.
20, keep them at 25, so
Yeah.
they get their feet wet, and like they actually know what they're doing, like, don't dump a ton of stuff on them on
No.
day one, like,
No,
keep them focused, let them learn, let them spend some time here to know people,
Okay.
start to expand the scope, like after budget's done.
good advice.
That is excellent.
I hear you.
Don't let them work too much, really.
So
Okay.
Pat, were you looking more at like a fixed total number or just fixed hourly price and keeping that in a year?
Fixed hourly.
Fixed
price.
hourly, okay. Can we talk to them about that and see if they can, I mean, we can talk about it with the trustees tomorrow.
They should be able to do
Mhm.
So if that, I mean, that is fairly normal in government. You have to sign a contract for everything when you work with government to
Right.
just say that these prices are, set for a year.
that. Sorry, that might have been a convoluted point I was making. I was only trying to say like the rates could go up.
Sure,
10
sure.
bucks an hour.
And I think what Pat's saying is just if we set a contract in there and we say these are the rates for this date till this date, then our rates will go up next year, but they'll go up at the
Yeah.
end of the.
Maybe it's included in, maybe modify the resolution or something and it's in there, because the engagement letter is something they provided to us.
Right, but I'm assuming we have to sign some sort of a contract or something at some point,
Engagement
or,
letters contract.
The
The
engagement
engagement letter is the
contract, okay.
contract for them, yeah, and
Okay.
Pat had sent me over some examples and our attorney was like, let's just go with the engagement letter, so.
Okay.
So that's what we got.
There's nothing in there.
yeah, that's,
They don't know what.
I'll bring it up to the trustees tomorrow, and obviously 2 of them are here, so they've heard this all themselves, and we can discuss it, and then if the board doesn't feel concerned about it, then we'll just go with that as it is, but I'll bring the concern to the board and the idea of, can we lock in rates, and we can throw the idea back and forth, and then ultimately, we're making a decision one way or another tomorrow, so.
I've talked a ton, this 25 hour fixed fee for the rest of the year to like get your feet wet. So you can really accurately budget for like next year. There's no way sitting now that we can get them to a place where they know exactly what they're gonna do and they gotta start, right? Like you start first and then the 2024 conversation is gonna be like, I think much more targeted. They're gonna have like a much better feel of like what they need to do. And they'll be real honest of like coming under, going over, like you need some time first. Like I love the structure of this like kind of part-time, a couple of pretty good tasks. Like we gotta get audits and budgets done, but then they're also gonna learn quite a bit too.
Mhm.
And I think it's like a pretty good setup for next year. To get like, that'll be like a good number and we can incorporate into the budget this year.
Absolutely.
Anyways.
I do understand that. They do need to get to know us, but they have done this how many times? And I think they have a lot of experience. So I wonder if they could dial it in a little bit more.
Well, we will find out pretty quickly, I think.
He'll be here tomorrow.
Yes.
So I think a lot of our questions will be answered tomorrow after we start talking to him and,
On Wednesday.
or Wednesday, yes.
Yes, he's coming to the meeting on Tuesday, then staying on Wednesday to he's gonna come to leadership, meet everybody. We'll talk about, what we see as issues in the finance department and things like that.
One more thing about
Yes.
where you're getting the money from.
Yes.
The library budget, is it revenue?
Yeah, we could, he's willing to give up the revenue. We're tracking down where it comes in as the expense. So it's money that he has.
He told me.
Did he tell you?
Written
Okay,
down.
cool.
Mhm.
That's what he had given me when I did packet the other day, that he was gonna figure out what.
Take it out of the, yeah.
The expense line item.
Mhm.
Yeah, we just need an expense
Yeah.
to book it to. You
Yeah.
can't book it to a revenue.
Right,
I might be able to-
okay, that's okay. We'll have it ready for tomorrow night. Thank you for that reminder.
Anything else on Baker Tilly? While I stall and get back to my. Okay, cool. Next is reports. We'll start with staff first and I believe the budget calendar is called out here.
Yep. So provided you an updated budget calendar. Of course, we're already through the first 1/3 of it. So the next date is July 19th, which I've checked with Janice, with budget instructions sent to the leadership team, which would include, our financial statement, so we could start gauging what we were gonna spend for the rest of the year. That will not be ready on the 19th. We're guessing another week. So we'll be a week behind, but we should be okay being able to hit, like August 9th piece. We're still waiting to hear back, as you know, on the audits. So we did put a placeholder in there as August 8th, but we'll see what date that really ends up being. So most of this is generally an internal document that we use to track what needs to be done, when meetings need to be held. You'll see on August 14th and August 18th, every department will meet with me and the finance team to go over their individual budgets, to explain what they are anticipating their expenses to be. August 28th, we'll hear from the assessor. So that'll be information that we can use when we're estimating out our revenues. So you'll see on September 6th, we have a placeholder for Prop HH awareness. We'll hopefully hear by the end of July if that will actually be a valid question or not. It's at the Supreme Court right now, determining if it's single subject or not. So if Prop HH ends up on our on the ballot, we will need to think about how we handle our revenues. So, like I said, this is really kind of an internal document, but wanted to share it with you for your awareness, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have on it.
Yeah, I see that you have positions budget that you've already done in June. Was a plan to bring that to the finance committee?
So the position requests were due to Human Resources. We're going to talk about them in leadership team, all the requests that were submitted. And then once those positions, whatever positions we determine to forward to the Board of Trustees, we will definitely include in the draft budget that you all see. Not every position that gets requested gets added to the budget. And knowing what our revenue stream could be, it could be much less than anybody would like. But preparing tomorrow, we'll talk about, or Wednesday, I'll talk about that with our leadership team. So we try to get some of those things that we can get done early, and position requests are one of those that we can get done early and set aside, and then people can start working on their operations and then CIP. I kind of worked back when we do this from the October 13th date is the deadline that we have to present a budget to a draft budget to the Board of Trustees. No later than that, it's a statutory deadline. So we have that. Have a couple presentations of the draft budget prior to that date, trying to get as much public comment in there as we can.
So it would probably be a good idea to add, because we're second Tuesday or third Monday on the 18th. So the department budgets come to the Board of Trustees on the 19th. So we're already going to be prepping everything to go in the packets, but we don't have anything about coming to the finance committee prior to that. I know last year we had a member of the finance committee sit with the Board of Trustees. So what I would suggest is during that finance committee meeting on the 18th, the departments don't need to come in person, but just have all the department budgets in that packet so the finance committee can review, and then you can select among yourselves who's going to be, or probably should do that in August. So they're not like tomorrow.
Right.
But that way you guys can pull all your comments together, share those to whoever's going to be the finance representative at the work sessions. And that way they can take you guys' comments into those, because both of those work sessions on the 19th.
Which month are you talking about?
September 19th on here is they're presenting the draft department budgets, which is what we did last year. We kind of broke it up into pieces, and then they'll do it again potentially on the 3rd of October. So that'll be in between finance committee meetings. So I'm suggesting is the finance committee meeting before the 18th, you guys do your review, share all your thoughts, get that all together, and then whoever is your representative can then bring that to the 2 work sessions with the Board of Trustees.
And I know we had that date for you for the finance committee. And
Okay.
it obviously got missed, and I apologize
Okay.
because we did have a date to bring it to the finance committee. I apologize. I will get that added in. And the largest budgets are always like public works. More than likely they'll be here to present because they want to make sure you all understand what they're asking for, what they're doing. That's all I got.
How does this work? Any other staff trustee reports? Committee reports?
Yeah, you got it.
I've got a committee one. So it was originally scheduled for me to talk about trustee pay at the work session tomorrow.
Oh.
That didn't happen. I didn't get into the packet. I know everything's been crazy, so I'm not pointing any fingers or anything. But do we want to try to get that into the August work session?
Pull up, I bet it got moved. I don't know. Ethan, can you see that? Do you see?
Let me look.
Okay.
I don't think
then I
it's
can
in
try to
there.
look too.
I give it a-
No, it's not.
It's not in there yet.
Okay.
I was going through it earlier today.
No, I was gonna try to look in our future meetings agenda, but yes, we will get that rescheduled. I
And
apologize.
no worries, yeah.
Okay.
I'm happy to do August or whatever works.
Okay, we'll get you scheduled in because that needs to be in conjunction with our budget process, so, okay. Thank you.
I got something. We talked last month at our meeting about us doing a work session. And it was said that we were gonna communicate over email and schedule the work session. That did not happen. So I would like to schedule that now so that it actually happens.
Work session for,
Committee.
Yeah, to go over the processes.
oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed that, so I apologize.
So collectively, after that meeting, we had a lot of feedback from employees that were not ready or willing to, they just, it wasn't ever carried to the next step because there wasn't a whole lot of encouragement behind it. So
Okay, and I remember this, so yeah, it's not staff's role, it's not for them to come and present to an advisory board on their processes and procedures. And they were uncomfortable with that, and as the town administrator, I listened to that. They were not supportive of that, so we'll have to,
Hey, I'm sorry, not part of what? I'm confused.
the work session
a work session with.
between the finance committee and the finance department
Employees.
employees, the employees.
Sorry, refresh my memory, maybe I'm thinking of something else. What were
I know
we
it took me a minute
meeting?
too.
We were gonna go over the processes, the policies, basically that they're not following. We were gonna go over and,
Yeah, that's not gonna work.
I think we've already reviewed policies though.
right, we're gonna go over the processes to make sure, to see what they were doing. And then try to fix it.
Don't the auditors do that anyways too? Internal controls
So when
auditors?
when there's a lot of things that have changed over the last couple of weeks, so things have been tightened down a lot. There's been definitely a higher level of oversight as to what's happening and what's being input in the approval processes and things like that. So if we can give this a little bit of time and see how things are going in another couple months or even six weeks, we can report out.
I guess I was thinking, since the auditors are now not gonna look at the processes for 6 months to a year, they're gonna be focusing on audits and other things that,
I'm sorry, I feel very dense right now. So, okay, audits. This is what you do during an audit. You get a set of financial statements prepared by the finance firm, by management. You test stuff, right? It's cash. It's cash on the financial statements, what it's supposed to be. Is AP, is AR, is revenue. Great. Straight.
Are they following the processes?
Every audit I've ever done, you do what's called internal controls walkthroughs. This is honestly bread and butter for management letter comments, right? Like literally what we'll do is like, okay, how do you guys pay bills? How do you guys do payroll? How do you guys do cash? Like that is like standard for every single audit. So I don't think the auditors ever said that they weren't gonna do that. And if they weren't, I would say, well, what the hell are you guys doing? Because that's literally, I'll tell you right, as a staff auditor, it's like someone when I was like starting out, it was like the best way to get to learn stuff was like any business you went to, it was like doing internal controls and walkthroughs. Like sit down with people who are actually doing the jobs in there and like, okay, go through, usually you have a document prepared from the year before. Obviously they were starting from scratch, but it'll be like, okay, how do you pay stuff? How does money come in? How's accounts receivable done? How's like, how are utility billings done? How's payroll done? Like, that's like very, very standard.
did they compare it to the policy that we have that we're supposed to be following?
Well, a couple of things. So if it was a established client, like, right, usually you'll be like, hey, did the policy change last year? Yes or no? Okay, great. Most of the times policy doesn't change. Then what you do is like, okay, walk me through this. You usually have some document prepared, like narrative style, like so-and-so in AR will do X, Y, and Z. So-and-so at the front desk will open the, like, whatever, right? And you go through, you're like, hey, is this still true? Is this still true? Is this still true? I'm like, oh, no, it's not Janice, it's Amy now, or whatever. I need to change stuff. Then usually what the auditors will end up doing is like, okay, I know you told me that this is what you do, but I kind of need to see, like, if you say this is what you do for a bank deposit, like, you gotta show me like 1 or 2 deposits. It's not audit testing. It's literally usually like, show me one. And like, oh, did so-and-so sign off? Did this person sign off? Did this person sign off? Yes or no?
Okay.
And like, if they didn't, or if like you tested payroll reconciliations, I kind of mentioned these earlier, like you'll walk through the payroll process and you'll be like, okay, so so-and-so is doing a rec every single time they do payroll. Can you show me the rec? And like, if you find 1 month that wasn't done, you'll be like, oh, I'll tell my boss that like on the July 14th payroll run, so-and-so didn't sign off on the reconciliation, and that's like a failure of process. Is that a serious failure process? No, they're usually not, right? But this is like cannon fodder for like, are they actually doing what they say they're doing? Can we tell? And usually, like, think about a company, right? If you're presenting to the CFO is not gonna know if the AR clerk is like stamping off or doing his 3-way rack every single month, right? Like, they're not gonna know. So you're looking for these tiny, tiny details. So I would be very, very, very surprised if our auditors were not looking at any controls walkthroughs for a brand new client. Like, to me, that doesn't, I don't believe it. That would be very surprising to me, put it that way. That'd be nice. So very long-winded way of saying, I don't think they ever said they weren't doing walkthroughs, to my knowledge.
I
No
have,
one's asked.
I don't know that. So there's an assumption because you're right.
Is it
That is
on, is
generally.
it on that list?
No,
Like, if you look,
I don't think so.
And, and I think, and Pat and I have established that there are a lot of inconsistencies in our purchasing policy that maybe we're not following at all because we don't have a purchasing clerk and things like that. So I don't know if now is a good time to go through that process.
this conversation started on the work session. I went on a very like audit 101 diatribe here, but like, okay, so a work session, we requested that various finance employees come present what their process to us. Is that what we asked for? I don't remember. Was it a process? Well, what did we ask for?
Yeah, roughly. The idea was to do, because we were going back and forth, I believe, shared the idea of a consultant bringing on board, and there were concerns that that might not be able to get down to where the problems were, right? There was concerns brought up by the finance committee, and so an idea was laid out that what if we were to do a work session where we could all sit down, staff that are doing all the entry can just basically walk through, here's what's going on, here's what's happening here, and start to try and figure out if we could internally figure out where some of those problems or where those issues were so that we could resolve those internally. And so I think what Ms. Garcia said is they had some conversation with staff and staff doesn't feel that that would be a good thing for them to do. So that's why it hasn't gone forward.
And I was on Zoom that night, so I
Yep.
was missing some of the conversation. I didn't realize that I was supposed to set that up, but we did kind of talk
Are
to.
they worried that I'm gonna yell at them or something if they're not doing their job well? Like,
No.
I'm sorry, I don't mean like,
No,
what's the
no,
concern?
no, I think it's more,
Because they're gonna have to do it anyways for the
No.
auditors.
no, they are not used to coming and presenting before a group of people. They're used to coming and sitting in their desk, doing their work and going home at night. This is not their role. This
Yeah, you
is-
shouldn't send like an
yeah.
AR clerk in front of like
No.
trustees or a committee.
Right,
I get
Right,
that.
so that's it. I mean, they're uncomfortable with that and I understand that. It's more important for me to retain them and keep them happy than to come and
Yeah,
present on this.
definitely appreciate that. 2 things. One, the auditor's definitely going to ask them.
okay, and that's
And
fine.
if they don't, you gotta ask the auditor, why the heck are
Okay.
you not doing this?
That's
Because this
fair.
is literally like
I wrote it down.
every auditor would do this.
Mhm.
But number 2, then, okay, you don't wanna make an AR clerk or whatever, I'm sorry, I'm literally saying a position.
Yep.
You don't wanna make an AR clerk do it, okay, cool. Why, can someone else do it?
Well, that would be,
Well, first, the finance department's completely new. There's myself, who was hired March 6th, Jeremy, who's the utility clerk, was hired a week after me. Charity no longer is here. Stephanie Rivas no longer here, went with her. So our temporary AP fill-ins are Jenny Jones and Patti Lundy that are, I mean, this isn't their job to do. They do other
Yeah,
things. So that would be the work session.
okay,
So
can I reframe this a bit? We're not expecting perfection. Is anyone here expecting any of these processes to be perfect at this point?
We just want transparency.
And I think even like more pointedly, right, like, we're trying to backfill some of these policies, like, we have concerns now at this point that policies aren't being followed, and I'm not a cop, I'm not the person who's gonna slap you on the wrist and say, hey, I'm not your auditor, right, like, I just live here, but like, I did this professionally for a while, I wanna help make good policies, like, I'll be nice, like, I'm really trying to help, like, I joined this committee to help. Like, I moved here from across the country, I have no family and friends here, like, I've been here for like 2 years, like, I still don't hang out with anyone here, like, I joined this committee because I was like, I don't know if there's any ex-government auditors in town, like, I don't know, like, maybe this town of like 12,000 people might need me a little bit, this is like the least I could do, like, I'm literally here to help. I don't wanna say I don't care, cause that's just like my reflexive, but it's like, I'm not here to hurt anyone's feelings or like tell them that they suck at their job. Like, I'm literally trying to help.
I just think the time spent with the employees to come in and do this is not time well spent because we're already under the gun. We're already short-staffed. There's really no productivity for temporary finance fill-in people to come in and have a work session with.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect
It just
temps to do
isn't.
this, obviously.
And I had originally thought, oh, well, we'd be happy to be transparent and share. That's a great idea because in a perfect setting with, consistent staff members who have history here and have stayed, that'd be great. We could all come in and work together. But we have new people, temporary people. It doesn't
Yeah,
make
temp
sense.
doesn't make any
So-
sense, obviously. I think we would all agree there. I will also just like throw this kind of counterpoint out here that like, sorry, Don.
Yes, Don Rhodes, yes.
Don, what do you think he's gonna do when he's like, all right, we need to take a little peek at internal controls? Like, what do you think he's gonna do? He's gonna talk to the people who are doing this stuff so we can figure out what's actually happening. Like, he can look in his Baker Tilly archive for like, hey, I need a comparable size clients like cash handling policy, or give me like some other municipalities purchasing policy. Yeah, he can copy and paste it. But like we said, like, he's an expert, so like, he's trying to figure out like what we're actually doing, who's actually working here. There's only so many people who work here. You can't just cookie cutter a policy that's gonna fit everywhere. Like, he's gonna retrofit it to what is actually happening and like how the finance department is structured. So like, my reframing of a work session would be, we're not the cops, we are not auditors, like, we're trying to set the table so Don can come in here and do his job effectively. And so that someone who you're paying $175 an hour for the next conservatively 6 months, more likely 18 months, can like come in and he's not like, wait, what policy is this? Like, is anyone actually doing this? And then if he reads this policy, and then he talks to Sandy, and Sandy's like, oh, no, we don't do this. Like, we haven't had this thing. This isn't right. This is like outdated. Then he's got to do rework. He's got to come back to whoever his point of contact is and be like, oh, hey, like, I'm not meaning to be rude here, but like, you guys gave me these policies, but I was talking to Sandy at the front desk, and she says like, this is just not how this works anymore. He's doing rework. Like, we're not trying to say like, you're doing your job badly. Like, I very much appreciate that this is a small government, that it's hard to retain people, and that there's push and pull for this stuff, right? Like, they don't need me, someone who's audit experience, to come in and slap their wrist and say like, no, you're not doing your job the way you should be, person who's making $50,000 a year. Like, they don't need me to do that. I'm trying to help set the table for Don, so that Don can do his job, so that we can get caught up, so that we can actually hire a finance director who might stay here more than like 6 months. Like, this is not a police state. This is not what we're trying to do. I think there's like been a very, very vast misinterpretation of what this work session is supposed to be.
Well, the tone from the previous work session a month ago.
You can say
in
me.
tone. No, it was you and I rewatched it and I respect everything that your feedback. I loved it. But the tone that was perceived from the employees when they watched it probably wasn't.
Yeah, that guy's a jerk, right? So I don't want to come in. Well, why are we doing that? Like, I don't.
Well, we're not,
I
so
didn't-
we're not gonna do the work session, right?
Well, and kind of adding to that from our
You're just
perspective.
kicking the can on the work session, because you're gonna do it with Don, you're gonna do it with us, you're gonna do it with the auditors.
Right, and
I'm just saying, like, you're literally going to do this at some point, so.
Sure. with
I'm
Dawn, it's
reframing that this is
fine.
not me telling you.
So before we just go over round the circle, I
Yes.
think that we've kind of hit a point on that, and if that needs to come back at a future point, that can be a further discussion.
Sure, sounds good.
Anyone else reports? It's just me.
Well, I think Christine had that last one. I just want to say that that last meeting, I would like to think that we've all learned from that. And that we all understand that we're here because the committee that chose us thought that we all had something to contribute and that all of our opinions should be valued, including the staff that's here.
Mhm.
So, and I think we have to remember that we're a volunteer group and that's what we're here to do. We're just here to advise and everybody is important here.
Was there a perception that someone wasn't important?
Personally, I felt that a few times, yes.
That I was saying someone wasn't important?
I'm trying not to point fingers at
No,
anyone.
I've been very willing to say, like, I understand I came in a little guns blazing last week, so I'm trying to understand what I can do better next time.
You did a great job tonight.
I think you're amazing. I think your mind is amazing and I appreciate, you've got a lot of value. So I can take whatever might not be valuable and disregard it. You help us move forward and I appreciate you. I love it. We're different. We all have differences. That's what makes us a good team. So just keep moving forward.
I'd also like to ask that we get a little bit more direction of what we're supposed to do with packets. Sometimes I get a packet and I'm like, what's expected of me? How much am I supposed to get into this? Or really, what is it? Sometimes
Okay.
I don't honestly know what some of these are.
Okay, we can put information in the memos or the, whatever we want to call them, but about what we're looking for and the purpose of the packet document.
Okay, thank you.
Definitely.
I'll speak to some of that and we can work to have, whether it's introductions or things like that. But I think one of the main things that I look for is, especially as we're looking at the finances and things like that, is you all have different backgrounds. So Dominic with auditing, Nick and
Thank you.
Jason.
I'll say James. I'm like, it's not James, it's not James. Nick and Jason, you both have background in banking, Pat in purchasing. Sarah, you've got accounting background, Christine, accounting background. And Jesse, I think I said this before, you bring the conversation of, okay, we have to explain this to everybody out there that maybe doesn't have all the finance background. And so the questions you bring to the table are great because then it makes us sit down and say, okay, are we putting these things, are we phrasing the right way? So you each bring something different to the table. And I think that's what I'm looking for is, I'm not expecting you to spend years of your life reading packets, but, go through, read that, especially on the financial reports. Are there things that don't make sense to you? Ask questions about it so we can figure out, because you're going to catch different things that I'm going to catch. And again, that's the nice thing about having the finance committee. I have a background within finance, but not everyone on the board of trustees does. And so that's one of the things is it just adds a level of, there are other people that have a financial background who actually have a better understanding of the reports than maybe we do. And again, I think you guys have a better understanding when you look at things, you see things I never saw. To just come to those and ask those questions, because then staff can take those and they can fix those things before it ever comes to us, which is great. So that when staff's coming to us, they know, okay, hey, we have this resource in the finance committee that can check these things for us before we get there. And then help us. And again, I see it as has been discussed tonight, is you're not to be the police on staff. You're here to help them know, hey, there's something going on here that doesn't make sense. There's redundancies in our policies, or, hey, here's questions to be asking our auditors, or are we doing the right things with banking, right? Are there ways that we can improve what we're doing as a town? So that's what I would kind of say. I don't know if that helps, but each of you are going to look at the packet for different things. So you go through that. And if there's something that doesn't make sense to you, bring it up, ask the questions about it so we can get answers.
So getting packets out to you on Thursdays will give you time to hopefully look at it Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm online on Sunday. So if there's, questions that you have about anything in the packet, financials, anything, just send them over and I will get with Janice on Monday morning, bright and early, and see what we can figure out before the meeting. Thank you, Trustee.
Any other reports?
I have one once everyone, I want to give everyone else a chance first, but then I'll do my report.
Where to start this, because we're something into this conversation, I guess. I have a report. I wrote something pretty long. I don't know that I'm gonna read all of this here, but I will just announce to everyone here that effective immediately, I am resigning this committee. This has to do with conversations I had with Ms. Campfield in the last 8 weeks before she resigned. She raised serious concerns to me personally that I felt like I needed to talk to old mentors of mine for advice. I frankly didn't know what to do with that information for a long time. I'm an overthinker, if anything, and I thought about it. And I tried to give Ms. Campfield some advice on maybe the best way for her to proceed with the concerns that she raised. I had a pretty long thing. I don't think I'm gonna read it all here. I actually have sent copies to the Finance Committee right before I decided not to go through with saying everything that I was going to say. I will also send it to all the trustees. But in my opinion, I, as a CPA, can't really sit on this committee anymore, given the conflicting things I've heard from, I'll say, someone who I thought I kind of trusted, maybe wasn't the best at her job, given some other things and other conversations I've had with people over the last 2 months, and then these last 2 committee meetings tonight. So I was long-winded this evening. I tried my best to give the last bits of advice that I was going to give, but I will be resigning this committee effective immediately.
Appreciate you. You've been really awesome.
Thank you. All you've done.
And I think you added a lot to this committee.
And I wish you were quitting. Because you could help.
Yeah,
You could.
I tried. I tried for 13 months, so
Try more.
I got it.
It's okay.
I got other stuff to do.
All right. Sorry to see you go, Dom. I appreciate the work that you've done and I appreciate the experience you've brought and the questions that you've raised. So 2 things I wanted to highlight for you guys. So I know I had brought over to you the idea of doing the balancing act. And you guys had kind of said, hey, maybe not this year. We're still trying to figure out data, which is a really good point. Well, a member of the community who has a development background actually reached out to me, and she is actually willing to put her time into trying to help us develop something similar to that, where we can still run something like that, but we're not going to have to pay a lot of money to go out and do that. So she's currently working with Miss Garcia and working on potentially getting something up that we will potentially be able to use this year to help gather input from the community in terms of their ideas and their thoughts around budget and things like that. So I just wanted to give you that update that I'm not going to propose to the board that we put this in. I did meet with Balancing Act today, actually, just to get a better idea of what they have. It did like a Zoom session, they recorded it. So once I get that recording, I'll send that out to staff, I'll send it to the trustees, I'll send also to the Finance Committee. So you guys can just see kind of what are the tools that they have. It's an idea that I'd like to explore for next year's budget potentially to see whether or not that's a tool that we use next year, because there's some other things that it does as well.
And that's that software you presented last time.
Yeah, Balancing Act. So they've got a few different things that they do, but yep. So I will, once I have the recording from them, I'll send it out to you guys so that you have that and you can review it and everything like that. And then when we get into budget, we can have a deeper conversation about whether or not it makes sense. So that is what I've got for tonight.
I've connected Dawn with Kelly Hodeling to try to connect some of the dots too for this piece, because she's gonna need some more information.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Got it.
Yeah, not all of us have all the information. Each of
Sure.
those
No,
little
you said
pieces.
Dawn and I was connecting Dawn to Dawn
Dawn.
Rhodes. I'm like, what is?
What
Dawn?
are you talking about, Patty?
Thank you. Now,
Dawn
now I get the
Peacock.
connection.
Don
Yes.
Peacock, trying to
Yes.
get everybody connected where they belong.
Perfect.
Anything else? Gavel, but,
Okay, meeting adjourned.
adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.